jet is taking off.
We have liftoff.
Well, the Winnipeg Arena is all right.
It's a special night for Winnipeg, a special night for this entire province as the puck is dropped.
For Buffalo, cross ice for Ryan, scores!
Mark Scheifele gives the Jets the lead.
The ticket to the Jets game today.
And clearly will be one of the best places to come and watch a National Hockey League game.
The Winnipeg Jets are proud to select from the USHL Youngstown, Kyle Connor.
Welcome back, episode 4, Jets Fantasy Fuel Podcast. Blair in the air here.
Keith McKnight, thanks for joining us.
Before we get into anything, some news on Patrick Laine, some big news for
Big
all
news,
of us NHL fans there. NHL 20, he's going to be on the cover in Finland. So good on him. He apparently a huge fan growing up, played the game a bit. I read an article on him basically saying it's good for like mental stability. It's a good way to take your mind off stuff whenever. But yeah, he's in his quote, I wanted to bring it up. He said that would be the only game he's playing this year. And I didn't know if it referred to him not playing for the Jets this year or any hockey at all, or just playing that game, as in no Fortnite, no Call of Duty, just ripping some show, right?
Yeah, just all about the NHL this year. So definitely caused some confusion here.
But I'd like to bring that up because we haven't seen a contract yet. Kind of waiting out here for it. But obviously, once we see what Marner does there, it's looking like a 3-year, 3 to 4 year for 10 mil. They're thinking, but once that happens, there'll be a few signings. There's a few players, a few teams getting a little nervous here, coming in 5 weeks away for training camp there.
Yeah, it's sneaking up on us pretty quickly.
Yep.
First preseason game set here in Winnipeg for September 27th.
Nice.
So
who they?
I think it's Calgary or Edmonton.
Nice.
So,
That'll be good.
yeah, it should be good. Four home games, 3 road games. So
Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how that trade works out this year.
yeah, exactly. It really will.
I do have obviously Neil favored just because he's going to be playing with McDavid and Draisaitl, and I think they're a little better than Calgary centers, so I think he should.
Yeah, they do, even on paper as well, even just statistically showing that they do seem a little bit better. Yeah.
Reap the benefits from that for sure. Yeah, I don't know if Calgary would do as good, but we'll get into that later. We are talking about offseason winners. Who are they? What teams benefited from this offseason? As far as it goes into the draft, free agents, just the whole shebang. And we're going to start, we'll play off my list today here. I have Florida Panthers, number 1. I think they definitely had one of the better, if not off seasons. It depends how you look at it from a whole. I think it takes a good coach and a good goaltending to win and go far in playoffs. And they locked up Bobrovsky. Yeah, maybe a little pricey. He's 30 years old, a 7-year contract, 10 mil per. He might get a little dicey in the few last years there, but I think we got some good hockey to see out of him. Last year, I don't know if you watched there, Keith, on Reimer and just the whole inconsistency they've had through the last couple of years. And obviously with Luongo retiring doesn't help, but they got to get younger, and they did.
Yeah, they really did.
Obviously signing Martin, 13th overall, Spencer Martin, locks up their goalie future whenever Bobrovsky does end up taking a league, which is about 4 or 5 years probably. I'm just saying that. Maybe he's like a Pecorine, plays good for whatever, but age does have a factor. So I'm saying 5 good years of that 7-year contract, and that's going to bring him into basically Spencer Knight coming in and killing it. He obviously was on a good team, maybe a little, everyone's saying, oh yeah, he's definitely overrated and whatnot, but if you're practicing against Jack Hughes, Turcotte, all these players, you're gonna get good by practicing against good players. Yeah, but obviously they got everything locked up there. Thoughts on Joel Quenneville getting hired?
Very happy about that. Yes, it's going to be nice for him to bring that experience down to Florida. They're really trying to turn things around there from every standpoint so they can get more people in the seats, sell more season ticket packages. And I think with his type of system, I know that towards the end of his tenure with the Chicago Blackhawks, things weren't really so much on the positive end, but he did bring 3 cups to them, for 2000.
What more can you ask
for, right? So just about every second year, 2011, 2013, 2015. So
that might have been a 210, but
210, yes, yeah. Exactly, yeah. So for the success that they had there, okay, he's only 4 years out of a cup. Who knows what he's going to do with this Florida team? I personally have high expectations for him, and I think he's going to find good success down there. And I think one of the prospects that they just picked up this year in the draft was the University of Maine, Pat Shea, but he's going to be entering his senior year back at UMaine. So I know that he was just there for the development camp.
Nice.
But he's somebody that we're going to have to pay attention to very, very much, very closely.
Yeah, they do have obviously the advantage of the no tax on the contract, so that does bring in a few players that are playing for more of the money. But I like the players that play for the heart. I got Barkov and all my stuff. He's gonna be doing pretty good this year. But we're gonna focus on just the off-season stuff. So yeah, to get back to Quenneville there, may I ask why everyone thinks that he's gonna do good there if he didn't do good in Chicago? Is there a reason for it?
I don't know why he should be questioned. Yes, okay, coaches do have their ups and downs, right? And things may not work out towards the end of any contract, or they might go through a couple losing seasons. Okay, he's not the first and he's not the last. So I don't think that his resume should be questioned. I don't think his experience should be questioned. I think he will find that type of success in Florida, because he'll be able to make an impact with his type of coaching style within that locker room.
Yeah, and I think it goes into a little more deeper where it's like we're talking 2010. That's almost 10 years ago. So we're talking when Taves, Kane, these players were, Seabrook even, like Keith, all these players were almost 10 years younger. And it comes back to, okay, why is Joel Quenneville going to succeed? Why am I so on these Florida Panthers as the best offseason? For one, obviously the goaltending, it's there. It's bam. It's covered. But why did John Quenneville do so good in Chicago? He's good at coaching young players. So I think that's the break difference that, everyone's questioning his coaching ability from, not a few whatever seasons in Chicago with the talent he had there. But at the end of the day, yeah, Chicago's a good organization. Bowman brings in, always makes the best trades, somehow knows who fits his team and whatnot. But he's getting younger now. So I think Joel Quenneville, if he stayed there for a bit, he would have excelled now. But that ship sailed. So I think coming into Florida, he's got a young core. Huberdeau, Barkov, Hoffman. I hope he plays on that line instead of Dadenoff, even though, Dadenoff has proved chemistry. Hoffman's a snipe, and playing on that line, I think it would be one of the top lines in the league if that was to happen. But that's basically why I have Florida. They also acquired, Boston fans out there, Noel Acciari, huge playoff fourth liners, getting more minutes than Bergeron a couple games there. I don't know why they kept starting fourth line. Obviously, I'm not going to question it if they make it to the finals, but usually you want to start your first line center.
Center, yeah.
Thoughts on that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little. Why wouldn't you want him being there at the top, coming out of the gates right away? So that's a little confusing there.
And more so, I was just looking into the matchups too. If Noel Acciari's playing the first shift against O'Reilly, he's going to get more ice time. He's going to get paired up against, it's harder people. You want to shut them down and whatnot, but maybe a few injury reasons with Bergeron, and that's why that line got held back. But there's a few plays where I was like, fuck, if Bergeron was on there, I don't think that would have been a goal against, whatever the case. They did kill it, though, for how much he's getting paid. Very trusted by the coaches, and I think he's going to fit in great as a bottom nine forward there. They got their top six pretty lined up there, but he's going to fit in. They did also sign Brett Connolly. I don't know if you watched closely this season of what he was doing, but he's I think obviously coming off his best year, we can't expect that to happen again. It usually doesn't happen 2 years in a row. I don't think his ceiling is even that much higher. I just think he's finally figured it out. So if he can do remotely close to anything he did last year for Washington there, he's going to be another depth player that's good for playoffs. Injury, really no concern there. He was the first round 6th pick in 2010, and obviously is a high pick for a reason. It's not just the points, it's the two-way player. They get enough points by their top 6, so it's another good fit for sure. And all in all, I don't know if I know you have a different team for your number one there, Keith, but
my number one, I went with the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, and that's a fair argument there.
Yeah, with them being able to land the number one pick after winning the lottery with Jack Hughes, I mean, it was goes without saying that he was the one who was going to go number one. He really had a really good year with the U.S. National Development Team program. So when you're going to put him against number one pick Taylor Hall, who also was the league MVP at one point, I mean, that's only going to be able to, add a huge impact on your stat sheet next season as well. And then, this season, this
I'm
team,
hoping he can stay healthy too. Hall had some injury problems there, and it's unfortunate because one of the better players to watch out there. I thought, winning that Hart, he's definitely deserved that. The other year there, him and McKinnon were the same player, and that's a lot to say. Keep up with the boys, right?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It was even his last little bit in Edmonton. It kind of was sad to see him, miss those many games. That year that he was here, that year he was in New Jersey, he missed quite a few games as well towards the end of the season. So, I mean, I have high expectations for him this year. He's really going to be touted to really perform on behalf of the New Jersey Devils. I know that the brass is really going to be looking at him this year, as well as for...
A side note, sorry.
Yeah.
Taylor Hall, another first-round pick that they brought in way too early.
Way too early, yeah.
I was talking to a few of my friends about this, and it's the whole Edmonton organization. It's, this guy's on the Illuminati, he can't be fired, and you got a bunch of older, style kind of crew in charge of them, and they bring in players way too early. Hall got brought in way too early. Yakupov ruined his career. It just ruins your confidence. They're so lucky they have McDavid. I don't think they'd be much without him. So
no, they really wouldn't be.
But
so they lost him. The New Jersey
horrible trade.
Horrible trade. I mean, I'm sure that everybody makes fun of them.
1-for-1 for Larson.
So for nothing.
You could get 3 first rounds for him. That trade was pretty hurting.
Did not work out, and this team landed PK Subban in the offseason, so I'm sure he's going to be eager to, make an impact this year because, with the cup run that he had with Nashville and then the early playoff exit again this year, I know that, he feels like he has some unfinished business left in the playoffs, and then also landing Wayne Simmons. I mean, that was another guy who Nashville thought that was going to make an impact for them. Unfortunately, he didn't, and now he's going to probably go back to the East Coast.
Train of thought, sorry.
Yeah.
Subban. A lot of people are questioning what he can do this year. And I've thought about it a bit. I've gone into the stats. Why he's going to do better and have an upside year, it's not a question of if, it's why. And the reason being, he didn't get the ice time he will this year. Last year, he had to share it with Roman Josi, Ryan Ellis, and even Ekholm was getting power play time. So he's literally sharing it with 4 defense. Yeah, they had 2 on the power play. That didn't work out very well. It's got to be a 1D, 4 forwards. I already called it this year. We're going to see a 5 forward power play on some team if they don't have a D that can hold the back there. It's coming to way the percentages of having a 1D 4 forward power play is just way better. So, anyways, to get back where I'm talking about, Subban is going to get way more ice time. He's going to be their number 1 D. I don't know if Damon Severson can hold the number 1 spot. Yeah, he's good on the power play, but he's done questionable things in the end there. He's not really consistent. He's really good, then really bad. I think Subban coming into the city, he's got the pride, he's got the heart, love him to death. He's so good for the community. I know as soon as he touches the first puck, he takes his first shot, the crowd is going to be on his side. He wins people over, and I think he's going to feed off that fuel. New Jersey's getting bigger. The hype's out there. Jack Hughes, they're probably going to sell out their tickets this year just to see the prospects coming. And it's going to be huge because I think in the spotlight, that's when Subban shines. He is that player. You want him to make a good play in overtime. I've seen him. He's never nervous. He just needs the ice time and the bounce back. He just wasn't getting the opportunity in Nashville. So I think you're right about PK Subban being a huge asset. I did have New Jersey at 3 there, but Simmons,
that was another one, right? I mean, he goes without saying he had a good career with Philly. Unfortunately, towards the end of it, getting traded to Nashville, things didn't really work out there at all, even publicly speaking, right? You saw their success that they had, and, well, you saw the no success that they had. It was a very low level of success. So
a few 30-goal seasons, though. He's due for a bounce back.
He really is. And you know what? Why not let it be in New Jersey? A fresh start, with a young kid, can maybe rejuvenate a little bit that he has left in him and show that young kid, Jack Hughes, excuse me, what the NHL is all about. And then now he's going to be able to play with Taylor Hall, and that's another guy that can feed off the type of experience that Wayne Simmons has, that he can give to Taylor Hall to really push himself to that next level. And the caliber, and you can obviously tell expectations are high for Taylor Hall and Jack Hughes in New Jersey together, and I think guys like PK Subban and Wayne Simmons are going to be able to bring that out of those guys.
Yeah, and I think the most important part and one of the better things he has offering is his fit in the team. You look at all these players, everyone we named there is pretty small. Palmieri probably going to be in the first line, pretty small. Jesper Bratt probably going to be top 6 role this year. I like everything he's done. Really good, everything. He can play in any situation. He'll be one of my later draft round picks. But Simmons, what he brings to the table, I think is his net front presence. He had a few 30-goal seasons, planting himself in front of the net, getting to the dirty areas, getting those rebounds, screening the goalie, getting pieces of everything. And I don't think they really had a player like that last year. If you look at their power play, it was just missing something. They had the skill and whatnot, but like no one was in front of the goalie, and that's where Simmons comes in. He gets into the dirty areas. He just does the dirty stuff for you. He's going to protect everyone out there. I did meet him about 4 years ago. Buddy was up there, and we're out and about, and he just was basically one of the only people that said hi to me. He was super outgoing. You could tell he was the life of the party. And after that moment, I had total respect for Wayne Simmons there. He's a good character player. I think he's going to be really good with Subban, the whole team. I think there's a huge excitement in New Jersey this year. I do have them to squeak into the playoffs, because that would be pretty sweet to see what happens with that. Obviously, the chances of Taylor Hall signing next year goes way up if they do get into the playoffs, but I think they're doing a few moves to get him in. My favorite move, we didn't even bring it up, it was as of recent, Gusev from Las Vegas. Yeah. What do you know about Gusev?
I know that Vegas probably shouldn't have let him go, because he's probably going to do well in New Jersey.
Yeah, he had a pretty good season in the KHL. He had 82 points in 62 games, he led the KHL. So obviously Vegas's scouts obviously had an eye on him. They've scouted a lot of good people, a lot of good young people. Last time I checked, they're 4 or 5 mil over the cap. So they did unfortunately have to move some stuff around. They did get a second and a third round pick for the trade. But it is a kind of a gamble, right? If you put Goose off with somebody, you don't know how it's going to convert to the NHL. Obviously, it's going to be maybe like Dadonov when he came over, and it took him a couple of years to kind of find his groove and whatnot. I don't think it'll take him long, but it's a matter of the upside. You do a trade like that, you're trading a second and third. You have someone like Gusev that talented playing against Hughes or with Hughes and Brad and everyone, Palmieri, like they have something pretty special up there, and I think Gusev is the missing piece. He's the wild card, turkey horse, whatever you want to call him. Yeah. But he's so I had them at 3. You had them at 1. That's pretty much the same. I think we can both agree on the next team. We're gonna shout it out in segment 2. We'll be right back here, folks. Welcome back, segment 2, Jets Fantasy Fuel podcast. We're talking off-season winners here. We're going to get into one of my most anticipated teams this year, Colorado Avalanche. I had them at number 2. Where'd you have them there?
I had them as my number 3.
Yep.
So
pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of our New Jersey vice versa numbers there. Colorado, with adding Nazem Kadri, they were missing quite a bit of production from the departure of Matt Duchene to the Ottawa Senators. So with Kadri coming here now, that's going to be really good for this team. They extended the contract of their head coach, Jared Bednar, by 2 years. So I'm really excited for this.
What do you think of what he's done in there so
I
far?
like what he's done in there so far. I know that people wanted more from him already, and I think that that's probably where they need to take the step back. This team has really already shown a lot of flashes where they can really make a push here for a deep playoff run next year. They had good success last regular season. They had good playoff performance last season. So I'm eager for this team, and they made a lot of different acquisitions. They made a lot
I'm
of
glad
numerous.
they didn't fire him.
Me too.
When he came into the league, it was last minute, walk quit last minute. He came in, they're like, hey, you don't want the job? And he showed his worth in the leagues coming up. And he basically, 48 points he got the first season there with Colorado? Or it's, for them to not fire him after that, it's worth it. It's obviously paid off his dividends. You give him some time, you give a coach the power, everything, and you see what they do. They can't come in overnight and just fix things. They got to implement these systems. And obviously with what he had last year to go as far as he did and do as good as he did, a lot of it, I want to give the coach some credit here. He didn't have the best, he couldn't even figure out his top six. He had one line and a couple defense, and that's it, and brought his team to the second round in the playoffs, game 7. So that being said, obviously the offseason pickups is why we have them so high. It's the re-signing of the coach, the systems in play. They had a top line. They obviously figured out their second line with, we're going to jump ahead here. You said Kadri. I'm going to say Jonas Donskoy. They signed 4-year as a restricted, free agent there. No, he was just, free agent. And, he's shown the two-way game in San Jose. He scored against them in game 7. You'd rather have him on your team. He's been a very consistent, third liner, if not second, because he will, I think, be the missing piece on that line. If you got Kadri playing a two-way game, a little grittier, you'd want Donskoy on there too. I think it'd fit in well. And then on the other side, you got Burakovsky. They traded, what did they trade for him? A second round
pick, right? Yeah.
And maybe a second and a third, I thought.
It was quite a few numbers for quite a few number of picks they had to trade for him.
Yeah, and I think that's going to work out. Like, if you watch Burakovsky in any of the playoffs the last few years, he was, when no one was playing, he was the only one that was playing. He was getting, 12, 13 minutes of ice, and he was actually scoring, putting up numbers. So he could only be a third line with Washington. With their top 6, he could never break it. I don't get why. I would have played him over a bunch of other people. He's 24, he's young, he has that upside. Every time he's on the ice, he's a threat, and I think he's going to fit in quite nice to that second line. So if they can actually figure out their second line, they're going to be dangerous. They did pick up Bellemare for a little depth there. He's fourth line center, nothing better than that.
No,
but he's what they needed. He's the depth player that can play on the penalty kill. He'll get the dirty work done. He's always been on winning teams. He was France's pride there for a while. Remember, he scored the overtime, if not winner, against Canada, it was 10 years ago in Olympics there. But he was that dude, and he's shown his worth and found his role. We're not looking for players on Colorado that can just come in and score. They found out the secondary scoring, so they signed him as a fourth center. Yes, the bad thing is, you're gonna take away rookies' times coming up. That a few players, even from that, to go back to that Duchesne trade, they have. All those pieces are nuts. They signed Girard to the 7-year in this offseason, which I think is a win. 5 mil per. And how do you feel about that contract?
I like it. I think it's good. It's good enough. It's good for him to, and it's going to bring out the play that he's going to. It's not too much, not too little. It's enough to motivate the guy to play more than just enough to pay for his phone bill.
And that that everyone might say that's an overpay right now. But when he puts up the numbers and the cap goes up in a couple of years, I think that's going to be a pretty juicy contract. So it's nice they're going to start locking these young guys down for sure. Comfer, they signed for another 4 years, another young player. He scored a few goals in that game 7. He was pretty clutch in playoffs. He's, in the first year, he was a little shoot first mentality. And now he's come into more of a, he will shoot, but he can make passes. He can play that two-way game. I like the grit on him. So everything they have there is potential to make a second line. We both know Kadri is going to be on it, probably Burakovsky. It's just who can fit into that other side. I think Comfer might have a chance there, and we'll see who it is. And I think one of the best teams to watch this year will be that team. Obviously, McDavid is my favorite player to watch, but watching McKinnon out there is pretty slick too. So definitely a win for the offseason there for sure. But who do you got for your next one? I had
my number 2. I know that we're a little bit disarranged here, but my number 2, I had the New York Rangers.
I was gonna say that's my next team too.
Yeah, so I mean, they were able to add Artemi Panarin from the Columbus Blue Jackets, so that's gonna have a huge impact on the team. And Chris Kreider was able to stay there, so having his production value staying within that locker room and within the New York Rangers organization, I don't think that Antti Panarin now is going to have to do all the heavy lifting as he was doing in Columbus. Those two can share the workload now playing for New York.
Would you have him on your line 1 though?
I would put him more so on the second or the third, Chris Kreider.
Yeah.
So that way they can split up that type of talent, that type of aggressive play, because they're both going to be able to put the puck in the back of the net. So if you have them together, yes, that's obviously going to pay a huge threat to them. But if you split them up a little bit more, like I said, the heavy lifting won't be just on one player. And then you also had Brandon Lemieux, who was traded there throughout the trade deadline.
Yeah, he's a huge pickup.
Huge pickup. And then now he's going to have an opportunity to play his first full season in a Ranger uniform. So with 82 games potentially there for him to show what he can do, the brass is going to have to look at him quite a bit because he's a feisty player. He's not afraid to get dirty. He's not afraid to score. So he's that type of player that you're going to want to need. And sorry, Blair, but just you hate playing against him, but you like having him on your team. Yeah.
I was pretty upset when they traded him. He was definitely one of our top rookies when he came in and played. He showed everything that he could play, and he just didn't get the ice time. But like, he's going to be a huge player. It's hard to see him go there for sure. But
and I know that Jacob Trouba left a bad taste in the city's mouth by leaving. So I'm excited for what he has in store for the New York Rangers, and I don't think he's going to be anything less than stellar.
Do you think he'll hit the 50 again?
I think he will. I think he will probably be a 65-point player this year. It seemed like he wanted to get out of Winnipeg for a while now, and so what if a player wants to change the scenery, and if going to the Big Apple is going to be what he wants, if he wants to play in a bigger market, if that's going to make him,
good for him.
Exactly.
He knew for a while. We just didn't handle the situation
well at all, and you could tell for the
should have
longest
been traded years ago. Would have been good for him, for us, everyone.
Because he never wanted to stay here long term, and then he wasted that whole year by saying like this suspension, or who just wants to play on the left side.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of drama.
He's gonna get more ice time there too. You're right. Like he had 50 points this year, sharing time on the power play with Bufflin and Myers. Once he gets over there, I don't think there's much competition for the first power play spot there. So he's gonna move up right in there, and he might definitely hit the 60-65 mark range, and it's not that unrealistic with the player he is. So, and the team they have in front of him, I definitely had Kakko as a huge pickup for the offseason too. Everyone was hounding on Jack Hughes, and like, he's obviously the best player like ceiling wise, but I think this year I have Kakko projected to get more points. I think he's more NHL ready, and it's shown in the juniors there. Some of the goals he was getting, just when you I would probably biff on a few of them. He would his skate would keep him up, and then he would just score. He was pretty impressive in the world, and that's the first time I seen him play, and he was all the hype. And I think if it depends what your team wants to build around. Obviously, centers have more value in the long run. He has more ceiling. He's a really smooth skater, whatever. But I think Kakko is a better fit for the New York Rangers. They had a Zibanejad, breakout season last year. You got Panarin on that side, and they got Kakko on the other. I think it's a huge first line. Maybe you have Kreider in there until Kakko can figure his stuff out, but I got Kakko definitely to start the season in a top 6 role there for sure. It's a huge pickup there for sure.
Huge pickup. So that's where I have the Rangers at my number 2.
Yeah. What do you know about their pickup on Adam Fox?
Not too much. I didn't. That was probably one that definitely slipped my notes here. So if you have anything you want to add to that.
Well, I'm pretty sure he was the Hobey Baker finalist. So him and Makar were going head to head for the best player in the league, and he almost got it too. So adding him is huge too. So their young core is ridiculous. Obviously, for winners in the off season, who was your most anticipated free agent that you wanted out of everyone available? Who is the player you wanted?
Who is the player? I would have to say it was going to be a tough call between Antti Panarin and Artemi and
I definitely had Panarin, and the other player I would want obviously back is Myers, or even the Ferland. Ferland had almost 8 hits a game, contributes, gets 40 points a year.
Yeah, that's still my mind. Oh my god, nice. It's almost like I just want to forget it and just forget him that he's ever here.
Yeah, but Panarin was definitely at the top of everyone's list. Almost landed in Colorado there too. I think it came to the New York contract. I don't know if anyone looks into the deets of what is 11.5 a year, but the whole thing is it's going $1 million against their cap. He did the Tavares thing where if there's a lockout in the league, he still gets paid at the end of the day. He might miss $1 million if the league isn't there, but he gets an automatic $10.5 million every year from New York. So I think that's what the whole hype was, and being in the spotlight too. He's definitely going to be on the top line for a while. He's obviously been surrounded by some good players, but he's shown that he can make bread doing nothing.
Yes, he can. Yes,
call him the bread man. All right, we'll take a break here, crush a beer. We'll be right back for segment 3. Cheers. Welcome back, segment 3, Jets Fantasy Fuel podcast. I'm going to be talking about my 5th team. You got 4 out of the way there. Who'd you have for 5?
I had the Carolina Hurricanes as my number 5.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, it's there's no debate on that. They should definitely make this list of winners on the offseason. I think it slipped by everyone because it happened. Everyone was kind of watching the playoffs, and it happened right after, and no one was really paying attention. Eric Holla, huge pickup. He had a huge year in Vegas there. I'm surprised they got rid of him. Obviously, with the addition of Pacioretty and Stastny Stone, they probably can't afford him. He's more of a second line center, and I think he's going to fit in great there behind Aho. And the matchups he's going to get, the contract he has. He had 55 points, 76 games in 2017. He's definitely the real deal. 12.5 shooting percent is, anything in that range, that they're making good decisions. They're not just whaling the puck. They can pass. They can make good plays. He has 22 points in 44 playoff games, so he's proven to be the depth player in the playoffs too. But I think he has more of an upside in this year. He was injured last year. He's going to come back hard, and I think he's a huge pickup for them. What else you got going on in Carolina?
Well, I like the fact that they've added in the seasoned veteran Patrick Marleau. I know that he's probably on the tail end of his career, but, the guy who spent 20 years for one team, you know what I mean? It's showing that...
They bought him out, eh?
Oh, they bought him out?
Yeah.
Oh.
But they did benefit Toronto's first-round pick.
Oh.
It was just a cap switch where they picked up a first-round pick from Toronto and Marleau, and then bought Marleau out.
Oh,
no intention of keeping him, which is surprising.
Yeah.
Considering that he could definitely have helped them out. And I don't know why you just buy someone out like that, unless he asked them to, or there was a prior arrangement where Marleau was known that he wanted to play in San Jose. His family does want to be on the coast. He does want to go back to San Jose. Wouldn't be surprised if they did sign him down there. So maybe they're just doing a couple favors. But I don't get Toronto's thinking on that.
Yeah.
It's not a second or a third pick, which is still hefty. You could convince somebody that, hey, for future considerations, or hey, take Marleau's contract and I want a rookie, or hey, whatever the case is. But giving a first round pick, I don't know if anyone looked at next year's draft. It's supposed to be like 2015.
Yeah, it's supposed to be strong. Yeah.
Why would you, even if it's a later, if they're projected to do well, Toronto might push through this year to win a second round in the playoffs, which would be nice for the boys. But if they're projected to do that pick is still 29-30. It's 2015 all over again. I don't think that trade will justify itself just by getting rid of that contract. Yeah, you want to sign Marner, but I think you could have shopped around. Arizona might have taken a bite on something. A first round pick does seem a little hefty for that. I'm not sure if there's going to be a little swap skis going back there, but I hope Toronto gets that pick back. It's going to be a draft to remember there. So Carolina, big win on that pick. Absolutely. Eric Holla, what else we got going on?
And also Ryan Dzingel. So that his 2-year deal at $6.75 million over the course of 3 years. That's going to be a huge addition for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's
3.5 a year.
3.5. Okay,
for 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, with his departure from his previous team, which was the Columbus Blue Jackets, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yes, so
and Ottawa too.
And Ottawa, so he had good careers there with 2 teams, and I think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be really happy with what he's going to bring to their roster.
Yeah, 26 goals, 30 assists, 56 points in 78 games last year. Huge shooting percent. He's got a 15% shooting percent. He definitely makes the smart plays. I think he's a huge third line center they'll have behind Eric Holla. I got him slotted in too. And it's what they're missing, Carolina. They have the wingers, they got the defense, they got the goalie, whatever it is, the fans, the whole everything they do at the end of the games there, the surge there going on.
That's right, yeah.
My favorite was Brock McGinn's little Thor there last year. But that's huge. It's good for the fans, good for the community. Obviously, the GM doesn't care if he's selling tickets. I heard him
That's
say
right. No,
a couple of interviews last year there. Going back to Brock McGinn, signed him for a cheap 2-year contract there. Good depth player, good two-way. I think he's huge. I think his best years are yet to come in front of him. Watch out for Brock McGinner there. And who else do we got on here?
Well, Peter Mrazek, the young goaltender there. So with his
Locked him up
for 2 years. I have him on my fantasy, so very happy that he's going to be there with a 23-14 and a .919 save percentage last year. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah. He's his playoffs. He was left to dry a few times where he made these saves where he shouldn't have made. He shouldn't have beat Washington. Like he definitely one of their best, if not best, playoff performer. And to not re-sign him would be crazy. The fact that they just went out and 2 more years for him, absolutely. If you can prove it, if you can get up to the 930 after a full year of getting in your groove. Obviously, he wasn't used to playing that many games. He was never been really of a starter. So I think this offseason's huge. Once he gets to prove himself, I think that contract is going to be justifiable. It's going to go up to the 8 or 9 apparently is the range. I can't believe Bobrovsky's getting $10 million a year. That's like
exactly.
Price money, man. And
Price
obviously
money.
that I don't know. Like Price is a great goalie. Don't get me wrong, he's my favorite Canadian goalie. But there's that injury problem where it's like even when he put up those 930s, he'd play like 10, 20 games.
At a time, right? He was always injured, so I don't know. I have my doubts about him.
Yeah, I'd still pay it though. Like at the end of the day, you would rather have paid more a goalie than have a shitty forward contract, because that forward contract doesn't matter when the next rookie is better. But you can't replace a goalie. You can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna get me a goalie. Like people are struggling. People were sweating last year for goalies, and how did they end up with Mrazek and McElhinney? Like, and they did amazing. It was pretty impressive that they ended up with those 2 guys and ended up going pretty far in playoffs. I got chirped. My 3 teams last year I picked players for Dallas, Colorado, and Carolina, and I was in first until the last round. Dallas lost in 7. Colorado lost in 7. I don't know if Carolina lost in 7, but I was pretty torn from that. But definitely seen it coming. Carolina, super good team to secure the back end there. It's pretty important with your center depth. I think, not just talking about off-season acquisitions, but a lot of people don't see what Hamilton brings to the table. He had 18 goals. I think he only had like 7 power play points. So he's not getting power play time, and he's still putting up 18 goals. Put him on the fucking power play. Why do you have someone else on there that's I know him, Justin Falk, that doesn't really have that? Yeah, he can run the power play, but he doesn't have the bomb. If you've seen playoffs and a few of the season goals that Hamilton had, it wasn't like he was getting fed from the puck. He'd make his own space. He'd get those shots. Really good player. And I think that if he gets that first power play time, he's going to put up at least 25 goals. And that sounds fucking crazy.
Yeah.
As a defense. But you're talking a Burns kind of level where his shot's good. He's good at passing. He can play on that. He can quarterback it. There's no reason that he shouldn't be on the first power play. I just don't get it. I don't know whose decision that is. What thoughts on that? Like, I don't know if you've compared Justin Falk to Hamilton.
No, I haven't.
Or I don't know if you've seen them play.
Yeah.
But anywho, there. So, do you have anyone you'd want to keep an eye on this year for Carolina? Players? Who do you think their best breakout player will be this year?
I think it might be Dzingel. I think he's been wanting to, prove himself, and I think this might be his season. That might be his mango season, they call it. That one that he needs,
mango.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Eric Hall has already proved, so if he does good, it's not going to be that big of a surprise. But I think Dzingel, 56 points last year. How many points this year?
56 last year, you said?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with 64.
64, so cutting the 60 range.
Yeah,
I
he's
like
going
it.
to cut the 60 range for sure, yeah.
That's awesome. I had it, as my biggest offseason. It wasn't really an offseason. Andrei Svechnikov, if I'm saying that right.
Right, yeah.
I think he's their biggest upside this year. I definitely have him in my top 10 center or wing list there. We're going to get into later. And if anyone's seen him get knocked out by Ovechkin
yeah.
that was hard to watch. Like, he got 2 goals the game before that. He's playing, a young, good player, new to the league. And why would you start a fight with Ovechkin? Like, I don't know if anyone's seen him hit anyone before. I don't think I've ever seen an Ovi fight, but damn, like I've never seen a kid get knocked out. And if I've ever learned anything from losing a fight, it's you come back hard. You got shit to prove.
Yeah.
When you play Washington, you play Ovi. It's not about the fight anymore. It's about you putting more points up than him. And I think that's how he's going to come back. Obviously, he can't fight, so he's got to show it in other ways. And he's going to be huge upside. But he's not really an off-season acquisition, but really good overall. Just misses. I had Chicago, obviously signing Leonard, 25-13, 930 save percentage last year. Obviously, under Barry Trotz is huge, so that will probably sink to 920 this year, but huge. They have the Crawford, injury concern. So picking Leonard up, I think, is a huge asset. He has the ceiling of he's got shit to prove. And I don't know, did you follow Leonard at all, Buffalo? And
No, I didn't follow his career closely. No.
Yeah, no. All I can say is let's the numbers count for themselves, right? And they got obviously Kirby Doc in the draft, and he had a huge year this year. He's 6'4", 225. He's like a Getzlaff, huge center. I think that in all makes them one of the offseason like close to winners there. We didn't have them quite on our list. They got the boys back together, got Shaw. I don't know if the trade didn't really make sense. They did give a lot away from him, but Shaw did have a career year. He had a 19 goal, 28 assists, 47 points in 63 games, which is huge for him. And he's going to fit right in. He's that player they've been missing, the grit. They have all the skill. They need another gritter there. They signed Zach Smith. They got rid of Artemi Anisimov.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that was actually the trade for Zach Smith. And that's huge. That's another grit player that, they're drafting Kirby Doc. They're getting Zach Smith. Like, everything they did in the offseason did make sense. I think signing the whole, trading for Nylander, I don't know how you felt about that. For Yori.
Yeah, that might. I don't know. The last name
Yarko.
always sounds good, right? So hopefully he finds some success there.
Yeah, it seems like they bring in these players and everyone raises their eyebrows, but every time they're proven to play. So I think Chicago had a really good offseason there. And my other shout out was definitely the Vancouver Canucks. They got my second and third best player I wanted to get in the offseason there. I did have. What's that dude from New York Islanders? Captain there, Anders Lee. I did have him like on, as a potential player too, but for a team I would want to build, I would more so want to build around a Myers, around a Ferland. Those are players you do not want to play against. Lee gets in front of the net, just not my ideal captain. I feel like my captain have to give a little more. I want more grit. I want more goals. I want more fights. I want more everything. And so Lee is, he's a good B captain, but for a full captain, I don't know. I think I'd build around a team around a Myers. Who else did Vancouver get there? Ferland obviously is a good pickup there. They traded for JT Miller. Miller's only had a third line ice time experience, and he still puts up numbers. He is basically one of those players where if you put him on the first line, and with Pettersson, if I want a little shout out to Pettersson last year, nothing to do with the offseason, but he was one of the best, if not centers, I've seen of making plays that aren't known yet. He's way ahead of his time. There was a few games last year where he would put a puck, looked like he was dumping it. Besser would know what he was doing, go there and score. It was ridiculous where you don't see that in those kinds of players. And yeah, he was a little underweight and whatever. And this year he's got the offseason to get it back. But with how small he was out there, it didn't matter because his skill would just take over. So having him, Besser, and then putting JT Miller or Ferland, doesn't matter who you put in that spot. Both gritty, both can put up at least 20 goals this year. Watch out for Vancouver. They got Podkolzin. How do you feel about that pick?
I like that pick as well. Those guys are really going to do well. And who was the last one here?
Podkolzin, man. They picked him 10th overall. He was supposed to go second in the draft for European skaters, so that equals out to about 4 or 5. That's what fucking happened that one year, 2015 with Rantanen. Rantanen went 10th, and he was supposed to go second overall. Everyone overlooked him, and that's what happens, where you have to wait a couple of years to get a player. Everyone was concerned about his, I want to say, development over there. Not a lot of people are big fans about the whole, a couple people, teams over there aren't really in financial stability right now. They don't have really resources. If you're not on one of the richer teams, you're not really getting the development you need. And I think that's why he was so overlooked there. Obviously, everyone was reaching this draft. I don't know how you felt about the Sider. Broberg will be good, but Detroit picking Sider at 6, he was supposed to go 15th overall. Once the D went, they started going, and I think at 10, I would have rather picked a Matt Boldy, but getting a Paul Colson 3 years from now, he will be a top player. So that's another shout out for Edmonton there. But we'll wrap things up here. Those are our off-season winners there. I had definitely Florida as 1, Colorado 2. We're pretty much similar on the New Jersey Devils,
yep.
New York Rangers, and Carolina fit in the end there. You did have a little shout out for Dallas there. I don't know if we did.
Yeah, just if you want
about that, if you.
Yeah, no, they were just one that I thought that they won as well, with Corey Perry leaving Anaheim, strengthening their blue line with Andre Sekera. And, those two players are going to be looking for a bounce-back season after subpar performances last year with their teams. I don't mean on an individual level.
Yeah.
And then Joe Pavelski, making his arrival there from the Sharks. So that's going to be good. Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, I know they're going to be eager to open up training camp. So that's just somebody else that probably deserves an honorable mention. But, that's
just for
pretty much,
Pavelski, man. Him playing, Ben didn't really have the best year last year. I think he's due for a bounce back year. Him playing with Pavelski, it doesn't matter if it's on the power play or at even strength. It's going to hype his game. Pavelski, 38 goals last year. He's going to get in front of the net. I wouldn't want to be in front of the net with Sagan shooting, but he's gonna do that. He took a couple ones in the face this year, man. Like playoffs, I don't know if everyone respects the warrior he is. He took a few in the face. I remember he scored off of his face. The puck in his face went in. You could instantly tell how much that hurt, and he still selling a bit. He's those players you look for. You go to war with those players. It's unfortunate San Jose couldn't afford him after signing Carlson for so much money, but that's the way it is, right? So huge shout out for Dallas as well. So we're off-season winners all in all. Pretty similar here. We're going to get out of here for the day. Have a good one there.